All right, so you've ever wondered how huge companies manage to keep everything running by the book? It's not magic, I promise you. It's a really structured process called an audit. And today, we're going to break down exactly how that process works, from start to finish. Let's get right into it. So here's our game plan. We're going to start with why audits even matter. Then we'll walk step by step through the 4 key stages: planning, execution, reporting, and the all-important follow-up. And finally, we'll see how this whole thing comes together to create a continuous cycle of improvement. So why do we even bother with audits? A lot of people hear that word and think of some scary pop quiz. Let's just forget that idea. A much better way to think of an audit is like a proactive health check for your organization. It's a way to make sure everything is running smoothly and to catch those little issues before they blow up into big problems. I mean, this is the big question every single organization has to ask itself. You might have these amazing processes written down on paper, but how do you know for sure that people are following them in the real world? How do you find those hidden risks that are just lurking under the surface? Well, the answer is a structured audit. Now, there's an official standard, ISO 19011, that defines this as a systematic process. But let's cut through the jargon. It really just boils down to 3 things: checking if things are working, finding out where they're not, and then using that information to get better, all the time. It's really about systematic improvement. And that whole process? It unfolds in 4 really clear stages. First, you plan the work. Then you execute that plan. After that, you report what you found. And finally, you follow up to make sure everything actually gets fixed. So let's break down that very first stage. First up, stage 1, the plan. You wouldn't build a house without a blueprint, right? Well, you definitely can't run an effective audit without one either. This stage is all about creating a rock-solid foundation for everything that's going to happen next. So what exactly goes into a good plan? Well, it's about answering the most important questions right up front. You got to figure out the what and the why. That's defining your objectives. Then you nail down the where and who, setting the scope and picking the right auditors for the job. And finally, you map out the how, a detailed roadmap that guides the whole thing and even anticipates potential risks. Let's make this real for a second. Imagine we're auditing how a company buys things, its procurement workflow. The specific objective is to find any risks of paying a vendor twice for the same invoice. That means the scope is the entire accounts payable process, from the moment an invoice is received to the moment the payment goes out. See how clear and focused that is? That's what good planning looks like. Okay, our plan is set. Now we move on to stage 2, execution. This is where the auditors really roll up their sleeves and get to work. It's all about gathering objective evidence. You can think of this as the fact-finding mission of the whole audit. The execution phase has its own kind of story arc. It kicks off with an opening meeting to get everybody on the same page. Then it's time for the real detective work, interviewing people, looking through documents, observing how things are actually done. Everything gets documented meticulously, and it all leads up to a closing meeting where the initial findings are shared. It's a truly structured investigation. Now, a super critical mindset for any auditor is something called professional skepticism. This isn't about being cynical or distrusting people. It's about maintaining a questioning mind. You don't just accept things at face value. Instead, you dig a little deeper when something doesn't quite add up. Back to our procurement example. An auditor is looking through payment records and notices that vendor ABC has 2 different ID numbers. Instead of just shrugging it off, that professional skepticism kicks in. They have to ask, is this just a simple typo, or is this the exact kind of loophole that could let a duplicate payment slip through? That questioning mindset is what uncovers the real risks. All of that evidence gathering leads us to stage 3, the report. Now, this isn't just a summary. It's the critical moment of communication. A fantastic audit can be totally wasted if the findings are presented in a confusing or unclear way. Creating the report is a meticulous process, and it's guided by 2 main principles: objectivity and control. Everything in that report must be based on facts, not opinions. The information is then carefully reviewed, approved, and distributed only to the necessary stakeholders. This ensures both accuracy and confidentiality. Inside any audit report, you'll usually find 2 key types of findings: observations and nonconformities. Here's an easy way to think about it. A nonconformity is like a red card. A clear rule has been broken. An observation is more like a friendly warning from the referee. It's not a foul yet, but it's a weakness that could definitely lead to trouble down the road. So in our example, the report would state a clear nonconformity. They found proof that vendor XYZ was paid twice. That's a direct failure. But it would also include an observation. The process for setting up new vendors is entirely manual. Now, that's not a rule violation, but you can see how it's a major weakness that likely led to the nonconformity in the first place. And that brings us to the final and maybe most important stage, the follow-up. Because, let's face it, an audit report is just a piece of paper until someone actually acts on it. This is the stage that turns all those insights into real, meaningful change. This is where the real work begins for the team that was audited. They don't just put a Band-Aid on the symptom. They have to dig for the root cause to make sure it never happens again. They create a corrective action plan. And the auditor will circle back later to verify two things. Was the fix put in place? And more importantly, did it actually work? Only then is the issue officially closed. So, to finish our example, the company implements an automated check in their software that actually blocks duplicate invoice numbers from being entered. Then, 3 months later, the auditor comes back, tests the system, confirms it's working just as it should, and the loop is closed. Problem solved for good. So when we put all of this together, you can see that it isn't just a linear process. It's actually a powerful cycle that transforms problems into real, sustainable progress for the entire organization. So we've seen the 4 stages: plan, execute, report, and follow-up. But the real power isn't in any single one of those stages. It's in how they all connect. And this is the key takeaway. It's not about a one-time event. These 4 stages create a continuous, repeating loop. An audit isn't something to be feared. It's a powerful engine that drives an organization to constantly get better, stronger, and more resilient. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. Whether it's in your work, in your team, or even a personal project, what process in your world could benefit from a structured health check? The principles we've covered today can be applied almost anywhere to drive powerful, lasting improvements.